today we are going to see Book of Esther, and the character for today is Esther. And the scripture reference is from chapter 2 to chapter 9. Now, in the Bible, a whole book has been named after the main character, that is Esther, and the story revolves around her. So, chapter 2 and verse chapter 2 and verse 7. Verse 7, it says, Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. This girl, who was also known as Esther, was lovely in form and features, and Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. So verse 7 gives the background of Esther. Hadassah is a Jewish name, and it means myrtle. And Esther is a Persian name, and the meaning of that is a star. So I was just looking, looking in the Google, and I found that the myrtle tree has a flower, and those flowers have a shape of a star. So I was amazed, that both her names, like Myrtle and Star, it's so amazing to find. And in this book, she is the star in this book. And this is a book in the Bible named after her, depicting her background, position, and deeds. But the name is first mentioned in chapter 2, verse 7, wherein both her names are recorded, Hadassah and Esther. And now verses 5 to 7, it gives chapter 2, verses 5 to 7. It says that Mordecai belonged to the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, and Benjamin was the son of Rachel and Jacob. It says Esther was an orphan, and she was brought up by her cousin Mordecai, and who had adopted her as his daughter. This may be because of the age difference, and maybe Mordecai was unmarried. And chapter 2, verse 15 says, the name of Esther's father was Abihail, chapter 2:15. And King James says she was fair and beautiful. Fair means she had a very lovely complexion, and beautiful is for a Hebrew word, which is TOWB, towab, which means the root meaning is to be good, to be well-pleasing, pleasant, lovely, cheerful, right, to make good, to do good, beauty, and it also means moral goodness. So this is about Esther's background. She had a lineage that is from the tribe of Benjamin. She was. Author is unknown. And the background of this book is about those Jews who decided to remain in Babylon rather than to return to Jerusalem, with a small remnant that returned with Zerubbabel, which is given in Ezra. I will not read the verses, but I'll give the reference, which is in Ezra chapter 2. And in Esther chapter 2, verse 6, it says, verse 5, 6, it says, who had been carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Jehoiachin, king of Judah. So they had been taken captive by Nebuchadnezzar, and some of them went back with Zerubbabel, and some of them remained in Babylon. So the story is during the reign of Ahasuerus, who is also known as Xerxes, who ruled over Persian Empire, which extended from India to Ethiopia. And Bible scholars are of the opinion that his father, that king's father, was Darius I, and his grandfather was Cyrus the Great. It was King Cyrus of Persia who issued a proclamation permitting the Jews to return to Judah to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. The Lord had stirred up spirit of Cyrus, which is given in Ezra 1:1. Another character, important character related to the story is Haman. Haman, he was an Agagite, descendant from Agag, king of Amalekites. 1 Samuel 15:8. And in Deuteronomy 25:17 to 19, Moses reminds the Israelites that when they had come out of Egypt, and they were weary, they were tired, they were hungry, the Amalekites attacked the rear ranks of the Israelites. And God had commanded the Israelites that when they enter the promised land, they should blot out the Amalekites completely. But it was Saul, the first king of Israel, who failed to comply what God had asked them to do. And from that time onward, there has been enmity between the Israelites and the descendants of Amalekites. Haman was the descendant of Amalekites. So the backdrop to this story is that King Xerxes was having a feast, and his queen Vashti was also having a feast for women separately. She was very beautiful and fair. The king, in an intoxicated state, desired to display the beauty of a queen to the people and princes, but she refused to obey the orders of the king, and she refused to come out. This infuriated the king, and the king was advised by his counselor to depose Queen Vashti and give her royal estate to another that would be better than Queen Vashti. Therefore, a search was made throughout the country looking for young virgins, fair, it says fair young virgins for the queen. Thereafter, Esther was brought in the palace along with many other young maidens. And the key verse in the book of Esther is chapter 4, verse 16b. And if I perish, I perish. This is the key word. It is to be noted here that though the name of God is not mentioned in this book, but one can clearly see the grace and mercy of God and the plan of God and the promise of God to protect his people. Now, Esther, we come to the character sketch of Esther. I have given a title, From Captive to the Queen. So let's dwell on her nature, character, through her journey from being a captive, then into king's harem, and then to the throne of a queen. So we see as a captive in Susa, she was brought up by her cousin Mordecai. Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin, and Esther was the daughter of his uncle Abihail, who was Esther's father. She was an orphan, and Mordecai adopted her as his daughter. He was responsible for her upbringing, and being a Jew, she must have been brought up according to the Jewish culture, tradition, and religion. But being a minority in Babylon and in captivity must have been very difficult for them, both psychologically, emotionally, and she may have been aware of her position as a captive in the society, and the people there used to look down upon the Jewish community. It was a small community. They used to look down upon the Jewish community. And as a captive, she did not have much right. So when the king, chapter 2, verse 8, we see, When the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many girls were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under care of Hegai. Esther also was taken to king's palace and entrusted to Hegai, who had charge of the harem. So when king passed this order to get young fair virgins were brought to his palace, and many girls were brought, and among all the girls was also Esther. Probably the girls were brought by force because no young girl would want to end up in king's harem and where their future was bleak and their fate was sealed. If king was pleased with them, he would keep them or he would kill them. That was the tradition then. Verse 8, we see when the king's order, okay, Esther was taken to king's palace and was entrusted to Hegai in charge of the harem. Verse 9, we see the girl pleased him and won his favor. We can see the hand of God here. It is not mentioned here, but we can see the hand and grace of God here. The girl pleased him and won his favor. We see God's grace. We see the hand of God. It also must have been her behavior, her conduct, her kindness, her politeness, and she must have respected the in charge of the harem, which may have won his heart. And maybe he was impressed by her beauty and found her beautiful both inside and outside. Not only external beauty, but he must have found internal beauty in her. It surely must have been her upbringing which reflected out on the exterior of her behavior. She found favor with God. She found favor with men, that is Hegai, harem in charge, and was given the best beauty treatment and food, and above all, the best place in harem. Now in 15b, we see, same chapter, chapter 2, 15b, when the turn came for Esther, the girl Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king. She asked for nothing other than what Hegai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the harem, suggested, and Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. So when the girls used to be sent to the king's chamber, they would take many things with them. They would ask the harem in charge and take many things with them, which would please the king. But Esther did not ask for anything. I will say that she was wise because she depended on Hegai the eunuch to provide her whatever the king would have liked, because she knew that Hegai would have known what interests the king and what he liked. So she was dependent on Hegai. And everyone who saw her was pleased with her. So she was, everyone who saw her was pleased with her. She had a pleasing personality. Even in such a circumstances, she was not unhappy or sulking. She must have resigned herself to God. Her countenance reflected inner peace and joy of the Lord. So this is not given in the Bible, but since she found favor with everybody and she pleased everybody, must have been her outer appearance, which reflected her inner peace and inner joy. Verse 16, we see, she was taken to the king in the royal residence in the 10th month, the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And we see in verse 13, and this is how she would go to the king. Anything she wanted was given to her with her from the harem to the king. And the girls would require 12 months, 6 months of treatment with oil and myrrh, and 6 months of treatment with perfume and cosmetic. This is given in verse 12, chapter 2, verse 12. So it would take 1 year for the girl to get ready and go to the king's chamber. But we see here that she was taken to the king in 10th month. Says that verse 12 says that one had to complete 1 year before she was taken to the king. But here it says that she was taken in 10th month. This speaks of her beauty. This speaks both of her outer beauty, and this speaks both of her inner beauty. And verse 15, we see when she was taken to the king, she did not ask for anything to be taken to the king. And when Esther was taken into king's harem, 1 minute. When Esther was taken into king's harem, Mordecai had forbidden her to reveal her identity that she was a Jew. This is given in verse 10, chapter 2, verse 10. It says, Mordecai, Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. So she did not reveal her identity, nationality, her lineage, nothing. In verse 20, it says, chapter 2, verse 20, but Esther had kept secret her family background and nationality just as Mordecai had told her to do, for she continued to follow Mordecai's instruction as she has done when he was bringing her up. So after being, in verse 20, we see that after being crowned as a chapter 2, verse 17, we see verse 17 to 18, we see that now the king was attracted to Esther more than any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her the queen instead of Vashti. And the king gave great banquet, Esther's banquet, for all his nobles and officials. So after being crowned as a queen, she followed the instruction of Mordecai, and she did not reveal who she was, from where she came. And she continued to follow Mordecai's advice, instruction, as she had done when she was growing up. So we see her character here. These verses reflect her character, that she respected her surrogate father in accordance with 5th commandment, honor your father and mother. She respected him, she honored him, she took his advice, and he must have been much, much older to her, and she depended on his wisdom. And Mordecai, we see, he was also a God-fearing person. And as an obedient young girl, she honored his advice and opinion. She held him in high esteem. She loved him and did not question his decision or advice, but accepted his guidance. She understood that Mordecai was her covering. That she understood because she was brought up in a Jewish tradition, and she understood that God was, like, explicitly, the name of God has not been mentioned, but we see that she depended on God, and she also depended heavily on Mordecai, who had brought her up. Verse 21, we find that when Mordecai was sitting at the gate, and he found out about a plot for assassination of King Xerxes, he told Queen Esther about it, and who in turn reported to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. She had become a queen. She could have taken the credit, and this shows, but she did not do so. She gave all the credit to Mordecai. This shows her bonding with Mordecai, and this shows her integrity. She was the queen, but she did not forget who she was, from where she came. She knew the value of relationship, and she kept it by giving credit to Mordecai, though she did not reveal her background and relationship with Mordecai as she was instructed to do so. After this, we see the events in chapter 3, and then again in chapter 4, we see the interaction between Mordecai and Esther. So in chapter 3, we see that Haman, who was descendant of the king of Amalekites, and the people in Babylon, they were staunch enemy of the Jews from generations. This is given in Exodus chapter 17, 14 to 16. But somehow Haman was elevated to a higher position by the king Xerxes, and all the royal officials were supposed to kneel down before him as if they were paying homage to him. But Mordecai refused to do so, and he revealed that he was a Jew. Therefore, Haman was looking for opportunities and ways not only to destroy Haman, but to destroy all the Jews, because his pride was wounded and he was enraged. So Haman with others, they cast a lot, and the lot fell that after 12 months, the Jews would be massacred. The decree was published with the approval of the king to annihilate all the Jews, male, female, young, children, in one day. So we come to chapter 4. Chapter 4, when Mordecai learns all this, he tore his clothes and put on the sackcloth and ashes and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. When Esther came to know about this through her maid eunuchs, the queen Esther was exceedingly grieved. Now, when I was looking into to the Greek word for grief, the Greek word for grief is chuwl. So it means that writhing in pain, and it was compared to twisting in labor pain. So her pain was not only physical, but her pain was psychological, her pain was emotional, as well as it was physical. So she sent clothes for Mordecai, but he did not accept it. She then ordered Hetak, king's eunuch, to find out the reason for Mordecai's trouble. So now we see here that Queen Esther could have been self-absorbed, basking in her own glory and reaping benefits of her position. But we see her heart of compassion. We see that how she cares and identifies herself with Mordecai's pain. Like a true loving and caring daughter, she was grieved to the core of her being. She wanted to find out the reasons for her grief. So when Mordecai, through Hetak, the eunuch, communicated to Esther about the decree and Haman's role into all these, he urged Esther to go into king's presence and plead for mercy. This is in chapter 4, verse 8. But what did Esther say? Esther then, in verse 11, her reply to Mordecai was that any man or woman who approaches the king's court without being summoned would be put to death, except to whom the king would hold out his golden scepter. So she said, 30 days have passed and king has not summoned me, and it is not possible for her to go. So this is the first time we see that Esther was little scared and she was making little excuse to obey Mordecai. For a young queen, it may be fear of death, and she by knew how her husband was. He was, by nature, he was illogical. He was, he had a very bad temper. He took decisions very rashly without giving any reasons. So she expressed her doubts over Mordecai's advice. And it is a human nature, fear of death. Any human being, will be will fear. So the fear of death puts doubts in one's mind, fear, and that in fear she was doubting Mordecai's advice, and she was unsure of king's reaction. So this is the first time she was unsure of Mordecai's advice and unsure of king's reaction because he was erratic and irrational. So in chapter 14, chapter 4, verse 12 to 15, we see when Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back his answer. Do not think that because you are in king's house, you alone of all Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for Jews will arise from another place, but for you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to the royal position for such a time as this. So Mordecai remembered the Abrahamic covenant and commitment, which is given in Genesis chapter 12, 1 to 3, when he says that that if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, because he believed in the uh, covenant of God which he had given to Abraham. And he says in 14, if you remain silent. So he knew that God will somehow fulfill his purpose. So this was his way of not discouraging Esther, but this he reminded her of God's promise, of God's covenant. And he said to encourage Esther that she puts her trust in God and his promises, which he had given for the house of Israel. And by saying this, he also showed, Mordecai showed his faith and his uh, hope, which rubbed into Esther also. So, verse 16, we see Esther's reply to Mordecai. And all this question, reply, answer was being communicated through the eunuch. So in verse 16, Esther says, go gather together all Jews who were in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day, and I and my maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So we see Esther being encouraged and reminded of God's covenant, took Mordecai's advice to heart and overcame her fear of death, rejection, and she was ready to go against the law. So we see her being encouraged, and she gains her courage. And another thing, quality we see, her dependence on God. When she asks her people to pray and fast for her, she could have relied on her beauty, but she did not. She relied on God. She was beautiful. She may have she could have gone to the king depending on her beauty, and she could have asked him to have mercy on the Jews, but no, she depended on God, and she asked the people to fast and pray for her. And she said that me and my maids will also do so. And she told Mordecai that you tell all the people, Jews in Susa, to fast for me, and I will also fast. So here we see that she is leading by example. She is not only asking the Jews in Susa to fast for her, but she also is partaking in that fast. She is also a part of it. By her request to others to pray for her, she acknowledges her need for others to pray for her with her. Usually, prayer is followed by fasting. We see in Ezra chapter 8, 21 to 23, and Matthew 17 to 21. Another quality of hers is she denies herself and is ready to sacrifice her life for her people. This is an act of courage that comes through faith and dependence on God and his promises. She is not the self-seeking queen. She also relied on the wise advice of her father, who deeply loved her and cared for her, and whose judgment and decision she respected and obeyed. And then she takes a step of faith and took the advice of Mordecai and acted on it. She was ready to lay down her life for her people. John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, that to lay down one's life for his friend." She was ready to lay down her life for her people. Matthew 10:28 says, "Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul." Philippians 1:21, he says, the Paul says, "To live is Christ and to die is gain." So we see Esther's character when during her interaction with Mordecai, like her faith on God, dependence on God, and prayer, fasting, encouragement through God's promises, though it is not very explicitly mentioned. And she was not a self-seeking queen. Beauty would have faded, but she was beautiful inside. She had compassion for people. She had love for people. More so, she was patriotic. She loved her people. So now we see uh, King Xerxes and Esther, the interaction between them. And this will also throw some light on her character. Chapter 2, verse 17, we see, "Now the king was attracted to Esther more than any other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any other virgins. So, and he set a royal crown on her." Esther is before the king. And after that, after becoming a queen, we see in chapter 5, verse 1, "On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes," that is, after fasting and praying, "and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on the royal throne in his hall, facing the entrance." So she took the step of faith, and that faith gave her courage and boldness to present herself before the king without being summoned, which was against the law. She was ready to go against the law for her people. She broke the law in an effort to save her people. So we see that God is at work. And in Proverbs 21, 1, we see, I'll just read this verse. Uh, Proverbs 21:1 says, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He directs it like a watercourse wherever he pleases." We see like God had stirred up King Cyrus, that some Jews could go back under leadership of Zerubbabel to rebuild the temple. He had stirred up the heart of King Xerxes when he read the um, record where it was written that Mordecai had um, saved his life. And now we see that that God has stirred up the heart of King Xerxes towards Esther. He had given compassion towards Esther. So in chapter 5, verse 3 to 7, we see, it says, when she enters the court, the king extends the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. This means that king was favorable towards her. Then between 3 to 7, we see, then king asks her, "Queen Esther, what is your request? Even if you want half of the kingdom, it will be given to you." So we see her courage, wisdom, and tactfulness. She did not hastily ask for her request, but we see that she says, so humbly she says, "If it pleases the king," replied Esther, "let the king together with Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." So it shows that how humbly and how in a pleasing manner she has invited the king to the banquet before putting forward her request. It shows her patience and persistent to deal with the situation and the enemy in a very tactful manner. She was confident that by inviting the king to the banquet, she will earn his confidence, and she waited for the right time, for the opportune time to expose Haman. So, verse 7, uh, again, when after the first banquet, the king asks her, "What is your request?" And he says, "I'll give you half of the kingdom." But Esther again replied, "My petition is, my request is, if the king regards me with favor." So earlier she had said that if it pleases the king. Now she says, if the king regards me with favor, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then she invited them to a second banquet. So we see that how tactfully and politely she has invited the king along with Haman for the second banquet. Probably she built up the king's curiosity, and along with gaining his confidence as he accepted the invitation for the second banquet. In verse chapters, then we come to chapter 7. Chapter 7, chapter 7, verse 3 and 4. It says, "Then Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases your majesty, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request." So we see she has been so tactful. Like I will say, she had been brought up very well by Mordecai, and she had been so tactful, and she put forward her request. She carefully chose her word, and carefully framing her sentences shows her wisdom. She appealed to the queen on a personal basis, personal level. She says, "Grant me my life. This is my petition," on a personal level. And she knew that she had pleased the king, and she, on every occasion, she had met the king. So Esther's wisdom in inviting Haman and exposing him at a point where the impact would have been great, and Haman would have no chance or no way of escape. So Esther now, chapter 8, now here she exposes Haman, and she says, the adversary and enemy is the vile Haman. Now we see that the king ordered to hang Haman on the gallows, which he had built for Mordecai. Now we see in chapter 8, 3 to 6, another quality of hers. Like the same day, King Xerxes gave Queen Esther the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, and Mordecai came into the presence of King, for Esther had told how he was related to her. So at this point, after Haman was killed, Esther reveals her relationship with Mordecai. So the king took off his signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and presented it to Mordecai, and Esther appointed him over Haman's estate. So we see Esther's how she honored her foster father, how she cared for him, how she honored him. And Esther again, verses 3 to 6, we see Esther again pleaded with the king. Falling at his feet and weeping, she begged him to put an end to the evil plan of Haman the Agagite, which he had devised against the Jews. Then the king extended the golden scepter to Esther, and she arose and stood before him. So we see that for her people, she was ready to fall at the king's feet. She was not self-seeking, not self-promoting, ready to go to the extent to show that how much she loved her people and how much she cared for them. She fell at a king's feet. It was a very humble act and of a selfless heart by a queen. And we see that the king took corrective action, and he could not override what orders he had given, but he gave another order that Jews will be free to defend themselves. Now, this is another characteristics of Esther was patriotism, love for her people, not self-seeking or self-promoting, but ready to go to an extent to plead for her people by falling at king's feet. A very humble act by a queen. She was young, but she was wise. Now, the lessons learned from this book is God has a plan and purpose for each one of us. His grace, mercy, love, and promises sustains us. We may not see and we may not feel also that God is there, God is with us, but God is working behind the scenes at all times. Like in Jeremiah 29:11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, plan to prosper you, not to harm you. This is a promise of God. So God has a plan for each and every woman who are here. God has a plan for everyone. God has rightly placed us where we are to accomplish his plan, his purpose, according to his will. Esther exhibited wisdom and patience in such an adverse situation and circumstances. She operated within God's will and used every gift that he had bestowed upon her. We must do what is right and wisely use his gifts given to us for his glory. Third thing, what I learned was respect authority, be kind and humble, and accept the advice of a godly person. Advice from a godly person, God-fearing person, should be taken with the right spirit and should be applied carefully. As Esther was obedient to Mordecai and followed his instruction, uh, as his faith was in the Lord and he trusted on the covenant commitment of God, and he encouraged Esther. So we also should encourage each other. Fourth, we may live among unbelievers, but it is extremely important to have fellowship and be in touch with believers. Esther was in the harem amongst the unbelievers. The only person she knew was Mordecai. She did not sever relationship with him, but she was constantly in touch with him. This shows how important godly relations are, godly fellowship is. Number 5, honor and respect godly parents and elders, respect their advice, maintain relationship with God's people. Sixth, respect authority or authorities wherever we are placed, but know your covering. Esther was in harem, but she respected Haggai, but her covering was Mordecai. She did not take advice from any other, but Mordecai, and she was constantly in touch with him, even after becoming a queen. Seventh, it is God who is in control of each and every situation, even circumstances, so trust in him alone. Eighth is fast and pray and take your cares to the Lord. Ninth, lead by example. Esther wanted others to pray and fast for her, but she too joined in and she too was fasting and praying with them. 10, encourage each other in love, faith, and on promises of God. When a believer goes through difficulties, difficult times, and otherwise also when we meet each other, even at good time, we must encourage each other and encourage in the word of God. 12th, know the promises of God. Mordecai knew God's promise, God's covenant commitment, and he shared it in not so many words, but he shared it with Esther. When dealing with unbelievers, be polite, have patience and persistent, as Esther had with the king before making her request known. 14, know your enemy, the devil, and deal with him through the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Be tactful in dealing with people who are against the Lord and who hate Christians. So this is all I wanted to say. The courage of Esther, the faith of Esther, very readily, she wanted to lay down her life for her countrymen, for her people, her belief and believe in God. And she respected her foster father and his advice, and she knew him as his covering. So she comes across as a wise woman, as a woman who knows how to behave in different situations, different circumstances. But one thing I always was intrigued by her, that being a young girl and being in king's harem, where a person's fate is not known, a person's fate is sealed, she still trusted God for everything, and she had a pleasant personality, and she was beautiful. She had a pleasant personality, and that gained her favor in eyes of people.